All right, we are going to, March 25th, 2025, Estes Park Town Board meeting is now in session. Anyone who would like to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us, please do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a couple of interesting proclamations first on the agenda, and I'll go ahead with the first one. Whereas trees, by their very existence, improve the quality of the air we breathe, and whereas the Arbor Day holiday began in Nebraska City, Nebraska, and is now celebrated internationally, usually on the last Friday in April and occasionally on other dates locally selected. And whereas since 1972, the Arbor Day Foundation, with its network, has planted more than 500 million trees in 60 countries in fulfillment of its mission to inspire people to plant, nurture, and celebrate trees. I've planted a couple of those. And whereas trees improve water quality and watershed health, and our forests, which cover 30% of the earth and house more than 80% of the land, animals, plants, and insects, and whereas neighborhood trees tame the deadly summer heat and increase community resilience to our intense storms of today. And whereas the annual poster design contest was sponsored by the sign-making industry in celebration of Arbor Day, and whereas the world needs more trees and we need them now. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and the board of trustees of the town of Estes Park proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the town of Estes Park, Colorado, and encourage all citizens to participate in this year's Arbor Day celebrations and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. And we're not quite done yet. The sign-making contest, and I will come down there actually for this part of it, we have a couple of awards to give out. Check, check, check. There it goes. It just has to connect up. I'll mention third place first. This is the third place trophy that Eloise did and won third place in the contest. Is Eloise here? I don't think Eloise is here. I believe she already got her gift at the library. Second place, Caitlin. Did this poster. And it actually, in addition to the leaves and the sun and all that good stuff, it has a little quote. To exist as a nation, to prosper as a state, and to live as a people, we must have trees. Anybody know who said that? Theodore Roosevelt. Okay. So, Caitlin, where is Caitlin? Is Caitlin here? And this is correct. This is heavy and big. Congratulations. Thank you so much for helping us with Arbor Day, and keep planting trees your whole life. Very much appreciated. And this is yours. Do we have a photo op or anything? All right, first place, drum roll. Gerald, got a drum roll? Yeah, there you go. First place, plant a tree today, the squirrels will love it tomorrow. This is a great poster. It's got The squirrels are having quite a conversation. It's Arbor Day, Tree Day, yay, get your tree today, plant a tree. Score! Good. Nice little pine or fir trees there. And the first prize award goes to Connor. And do we have Connor here? I think Connor and Caitlin might be related. Congratulations, Connor. And this is your award. Thank you so much. Yeah, we have to get a picture of the first place. Yeah, oh, you can hold the poster. There you go. All right, thank you again. And you probably have a copy of it. Judy, you can take the proclamation. It is now yours. Okay, see how quickly you can guess what this one's about. Whereas the Great Estes Park Duck Race is a cherished community service project of the Rotary Club of Estes Park, and whereas this annual event provides nonprofit organizations and community groups with an opportunity to raise funds through the adoption of ducks, those are rubber ducks, whereas the generous support of local sponsors ensures fabulous prizes and enables 95% of the funds raised to be returned to participating organizations. And whereas on Saturday, May 3rd, 2025, the 37th annual Great Estes Park Duck Race will take place with nearly 12,000 rubber ducks released into the Big Thompson River near Riverside Plaza and raced toward the finish line at the Estes Park Visitor Center. And whereas the festival will feature hundreds of prizes, live entertainment, and family-friendly activities for all to enjoy. And whereas the Great Estes Park Duck Race, presented by the Rotary Club of Estes Park, is the largest general charitable fundraiser in the Estes Valley, annually generating over $200,000 to support charities and organizations that benefit local residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and the board of trustees of the town of Estes Park do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 3rd, 2025 as the Great Estes Park Duck Race. Hurrah, or quack, 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 yeah, quack, quack. We do not have a poster contest, and I will make sure that the appropriate authorities get their copy of the proclamation. We'll now move to the graduation ceremony for the 2025 Community Information Academy. It used to be Citizens. We changed it to Community to make it even broader. And so we have a process that we need to go through here. We've got the screen up back here. We'll be using the handheld mic, I think. And so Kate, where is Kate? Okay, we'll get this together.
Not yet. There it goes. Thank you. I think I am. First, I would like to call all of my CIA members down to the front, please. If you could stand kind of behind the podium here in front of the board, that would be great. While they're walking down, I'm glad to see such a big turnout. No matter what brought you to the meeting, it's great that so many people are here for this, because we're proud of this group and we're proud of the program. My name is Kate Miller, and I am the Public Information Officer for the town. Everybody situated? Tonight we had the pleasure of acknowledging all of these people for something they've done this year, and that was join the CIA. They are not covert agents who gather intelligence around the globe. They are the members of the town's Community Information Academy. And we are wrapping up that course right now. And these fine people have been with us throughout. And I want to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing the past 6 weeks. The CIA has been going on for a long time, by the way. It's been very successful. We offer it every other year. And we often have a group about this size. We had 20 people this year. And a lot of staff supporting it. This group has the opportunity to meet with dozens of town staff, officials, department directors, and it's a casual setting, and we have great conversations, and we end up giving a lot of tools to them to get more involved in the local government with the town, and we learn a lot from them as well, which is actually a critical part of our work as public servants, because we can't do our best to provide reliable, high-quality services and adapt to the needs of the community unless we are spending time and listening and gathering feedback. So it's just a wonderful program. It's one of the best parts of my job. And I want to thank everybody for their participation. Glad you could be here tonight. Let's see. As I mentioned, it's a team effort. Dozens of staff involved and members of the town board, the mayor, and we couldn't pull this off and make it such a success without that team. And I want to thank a couple people in particular. One is Susanna Simpson across there. She is our management analyst. She's been helping with CIA for over a decade. And no matter how busy she is or what her workload looks like, she is eager to step up, and she's enthused about spending time with the group. So we couldn't do it without her. So thank you, Susanna. Yeah. This is the second season that we have partnered with the Estes Valley Library, and the library has been wonderful. And we did this because it helped to broaden our reach and expand the audience and get new people interested and involved in CIA. We moved our classroom to the library. They have helped us promote it. They've helped us with technology needs in the room. Eric White, who's the adult services librarian, fixed whatever I did wrong with the AV system pretty much every week. So I appreciated that very much. Eric couldn't be here tonight, but he did have something he wanted me to share. He says, "Congratulations to the CIA class of 2025. Promoting civic engagement is a core element of the library's mission, and we love the opportunity to partner with the town in presenting the Community Information Academy. Thank you for being involved, residents of your community, and many thanks to those who make the course possible, including Kate, Anna." It's kind of awkward. "And this year's wonderful slate of presenters." And he hopes to see everybody, new people in our class in 2027. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Town Administrator Travis Mahalik and then Mayor Gary Hall to say a few words.
Thanks, Kate. I have a long list of people to thank, but I want to start with thanking our participants. It's not easy to take the time out of your jobs, your retirement, your daily life to come and join us and learn more about municipal government. It takes a special breed of person to get that engaged, and I want to thank you for taking the time to engage with our staff and learn more about what it is that we do here at the town. I do want to extend my gratitude to staff. They spent a lot of time preparing presentations, demonstrations, preparing for the tours to make sure that we gave this group a engaging experience and that they took something away from it that helps them understand town operations better and gives them a chance to interact with our staff on a daily basis. Beyond that, I want to extend my gratitude to former town attorney Greg White. Greg came and made the trip up from Loveland to share his extensive knowledge about the town's water sources and our water rights. That's a pretty Byzantine area of law, and Greg has a vast amount of knowledge about the town's situation from his many years with the town of Estes Park. I'd also like to thank Judge Thrower. He's our municipal court judge. He came up and gave a presentation about what it is he does. It's very different from what most of town departments do, and it takes quite a bit of time and wherewithal to explain all the ins and outs of municipal court. Lastly, I want to thank the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem Sanak, who took time out of their day to share what they do with the group. I know that both of those sessions were highly beneficial to the group and were well received, so thank you both very much. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Estes Park Mayor Gary Hall.
This is really fabulous. Look at this lineup here. You know, most of you would look really good behind the desk here. So maybe in another election or two, yeah, yeah, you've already got some agenda items you want to add, I can see. But you know, CIA is such a terrific thing. I moved to town 21 years ago, and this program, what year did it start actually? Yeah, well, a while ago. Yeah, it's been around for a while. I remember it from my first days of being here. And obviously, I think it's grown and evolved. It's just a wonderful thing. So many opportunities to interact. I think you even got to take the trolley tour around town and go to different departments and all of that stuff. So just a wonderful thing. Thanks for participating. This is what it's all about. And hopefully this isn't the end of your community involvement and your civic engagement. I hope you will continue. And in fact, as I mentioned, when that next election comes rolling around, well, you're pretty well prepared. I retired from the hospital after 18 years back in September 2023. I did not go through CIA. I wish I had, because this last 11 months, there's been a lot of education that I would have had in the bank already at that time. So thank you for the advanced participation in that. And the next election is not till, what, May of 2026, yeah, for that. So thanks for that. And I also want to thank all the special tax districts that are doing a extra bonus day tomorrow on Wednesday. And I won't name them all. You know a lot, all of them. The sanitation, the library, various other special tax districts of Larimer County. So you're going to have a great session there. Each of those is so very important to the overall community, how it all fits together. So thanks again for everything you've done. I think I give the microphone back to Kate, is what my script says.
Very good at following the directions. Thank you. I'm very good at giving them. Yes, I believe I need to thank the mayor and the town board. I know we're facing away from you, but this is the board's program. And I want to thank the board for continuing to fund CIA. It doesn't cost a lot, but we spend a lot of time with the group, and it's really meaningful. Nonetheless, I hope you keep budgeting for it, because I want to invite everybody to the next one in 2027. And so now you're on the hook for that. I believe at this point we're finished talking, and we'd like to present some certificates to each of the participants. And if you don't mind, we'll just save applause until the end, and then you can do that. We'll take a couple of pictures, and I think that'll be it for the evening. So, we good with this? We go this direction? Okay. First, Jeff Abel. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Jeff. Do you forget? Forgot to shake your hand. And you can go right back over. Jeff, it was really good. Julie Abel.
The second one has it figured out.
Kate Arterburn. Judy Brannon. Karen Chrislip. Carol Dressley. Colin Godsey. Dennis Hoshiko. Root Miller. Mel O'Neill. Derek Pastor. Derek is one of 2 staff members that attended. He is in our Public Works Department. And also Carla Sterling. Carla, I'll just call you up now. Carla Sterling is in our Utilities Department. So it's nice to have staff in CIA sometimes as well. Gina Stein. Nick Thomas. Stephen Thomas. It was a family thing. That's wonderful. And Don Wiedmeyer. Missing Don. Okay. Well, in addition to Don, there were a few more people who couldn't make it tonight, and they were wonderful to have in the class. So I'd like to read their names. Don, Trent Abbott couldn't be here tonight. Rebecca Gatchell, and Carol and Larry Griffin. So we had a big group. This isn't even all of them, and it was a wonderful time. So please give everyone a big hand. Yep. You guys go up top. Our deputy town administrator, Jason, is going to stage us, and I think we're going to have to get uncomfortably close to fit in the picture.
One moment while we get the screen back down. One more item, and then I have an announcement to make. The agenda approval, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? If not, can I have a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
The motion to approve the agenda as written by Trustee Hazelton, second by Trustee Brown. Any additional comments? We can vote on it. Oh. If there's too much of a delay, you know, I start singing something. It's always that danger. Agenda approved unanimously as written. I imagine a lot of you might be here for one of the late agenda items related to the annexation discussion of the Elkhorn Phase 2, as it was called. I should note that that is a discussion item. There is no vote happening, and typically in those discussion items, we do not do public comment. We have received voluminous written public comment and of different shapes and variety. I do expect that the trustees all read all of those. If this were to progress to an actual action item on a future agenda relating to the annexation and rezoning, there would be public comment during that time. I am curious, how many of you were expecting to make verbal public comment tonight? We've got a bit of a challenge then. Several of you, I imagine, have also made written comment, and so it's likely that the verbal comment, when we're not taking any action, doing no voting, is likely going to be some summary of what you've written. What I could do is put a certain allotted time that we could use, first come, first served, at the time we get to that. My anticipation, just based on the way the agenda is set up, is it's going to be quite late in the evening, but I would give the opportunity for 15 minutes of public comment at that point. It would have to be prioritized, and it really would be a first-come type of opportunity. So I will give that opportunity. It's a rare event. We normally do not have public comment verbally on the discussion items. We wait until we are actually having an action item, and then we have appropriate public comment. That being said, if you can consolidate comments when we get to that point, and we'll be timing them, and we'll work with it that way. We'll see how quickly we can get to that agenda item. Yeah, I think that probably because of the number of you that raised your hand, the best thing to do is to have a little sign-up sheet here, and so we will put that out here and work through it. So, Town Attorney, did you have any comment for me? Okay, thank you. We now, as far as items not on the agenda, does anyone have public comment on items not on the agenda? If so, you may approach the microphone. You will have, yeah, I think that's the only hand I saw come up on that. And you'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Ruth Miller, Executive Director of EVIX Family Resource Center. We are located at 1182 Graves Avenue, Unit A, and we are here to deliver an invitation for all of you in our community, and my daughter was kind enough to deliver it.
Hello, my name is Isabella, and we are here today to remind everyone that April is the month of the young child, a time to celebrate kids like me and all the other little ones in our town. Children are important. We are the future, and we grow best when our whole community supports us. This month is about bringing awareness to how important it is to invest in childhood success, because when kids have what they need to learn and grow, everybody wins. EVIX, our community resource center, is hosting a big festival at Mount View Bible Fellowship Church in the gymnasium on April 7th from 10:30 to 1:30 p.m., and everyone is invited. There will be fun, learning, and ways to get involved. Please help us celebrate and support children and families, not just in April, but all year long, because when kids shine, our whole community shines. Thank you for letting me talk about the month of the young children.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm John Guffey. I live at 561 Chapin Lane, Unit 2. And I just have a couple things. I spoke to Trevor Whitmer in the Public Works about this, and he suggested I write him a description and he would submit it to the State Highway Department because it is a state highway that runs through the roundabout at McGregor and just up the hill. My concern as a resident who lives just up from that roundabout and that highway is that people speed and there is a sign that flashes and tells them to slow down, but they're just not getting it. And it's repeated offense over and over and over. And I know the police have put a parked empty patrol car down there to try to raise awareness that that's a speed zone. People don't get it. So I know that that's not your responsibility or the police department's, generally speaking, but it is in the town and it is a very big concern. And two things, 25 miles an hour coming down the hill from driving 40 or 45 or 50 or whatever, it's a challenge, but I think they put that sign up for a reason and nobody is paying attention to it. The other thing is that as you leave the roundabout, you can go 40 right off the bat. And it just seems awkward to have two different speed limits on the same street in the same section in an area where it's risky. Another thing, I hope I have time. The highway that runs from Estes to Drake through Glen Haven is a slow highway, 25 miles an hour, much of that highway. And it's beautiful, and it should stay that way. There is no room for bicycles on that road besides the actual pavement that you drive on. 25 is a decent speed limit if you're competing with bicycles and cars, and we should do everything we can to keep that speed limit and to protect that street from people that drive too fast. Again, it's not the town's responsibility, but it is the territory in which we live, in which we commute, and which we share with Glen Haven. And people that live down there must be concerned as well. So I hope that there's some way that just my own attention to the matter isn't just one citizen concerned, because I've watched enough to know that people speed consistently, frequently, if not all the time in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment on items not on the agenda?
And Nick Thomas, 230 Sightworth Road. I just wanted to put, now that we're open and on the record, I want to say another thank you to the board for supporting the CIA program. And a special thank you to Kate and the administration of it. It really was a phenomenal program, and I work in some degree with the town in a capacity for the last 2 years, and I still got so much out of it. It really is a phenomenal program, so please keep supporting it. Thank you for doing it. A special thank you to Kate and the two of you who came and spoke at it, and I hope to see that continue every 2 years, almost every year if more participation got involved, because you learn quite a bit about the town. So thank you for that, and thank you for everybody who was involved.
Other comments, items not on the agenda? And seeing none, we'll proceed to town board comments and liaison reports. Trustee Eigel.
Mayor, I have no report tonight.
Trustee Lancaster.
Just a couple short things. I did, Trustee Brown and I conducted interviews for the Housing Authority on the 14th. And I think that'll be on the agenda later tonight. And then also I attended the Planning Commission meeting last Tuesday as the liaison.
Come on, Mayor Pro Tem Sinek. Oh,
I was trying to look for a date. If you could skip me and come back, that would be great.
oh,
'Cause
okay.
I forgot the date.
Trustee Youngland.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is I want the public and everybody to know that Sister Cities, which I'm a liaison to, sent some students to Monteverde, Costa Rica. And in April sometime, we don't have a date yet, but there is going to be a welcome back ceremony or activity. One of the evenings, the students will give a brief report on how the trip went, what they learned, what they got to see, and maybe a little bit of their culinary class. They may cook for us. So just to kind of keep you aware of that, it'll be in the paper. It's going to be in April. They will also be coming to one of the town board meetings to present to the town board a slideshow and report, since we did help fund their way there. So just everybody keep an eye out for that and join when you hear about it.
Thank you, Trustee Hazelton.
First, I just want to mention that this Thursday at 10 a.m. here in this room, Trustee Lancaster and I are hosting the next trustee talk. So I hope folks will come down and share your thoughts with us. Very casual environment. There's no agenda or list of topics. It's really what the community wants to share with us and with each other. Often I find that the trustee talks are much more of a round table than they are, people speaking to us or us speaking back to them. It's a lot of community sharing. So please come. That's Thursday, 10 a.m. here in this room with Trustee Lancaster. I am the liaison for restorative justice, and I just want to publicly thank them for facilitating our joint study session with the Planning Commission last week. I think they did a great job and spent a lot of time working with each of us before that meeting, running the conversation during the meeting. It was just it was a great exercise of why restorative justice is such a valuable asset for our community. So thank you to them. And I also wanted to publicly welcome Megan, who is the new case coordinator for restorative justice. That position's been vacated for a number of months now, and we're really excited to welcome her to the group. So if you happen to be involved with restorative justice or not, and you see Megan around, please welcome her to town. And I'm also the liaison and a member of the board for Visit Estes Park. And at our last meeting, I did not comment on the CEO search committee process. There were still a number of things in flux, but I do have a statement to share tonight. I'll read that, so forgive me that I'll just be reading that off of my screen. But I wanted to share that publicly and then share a couple of thoughts. So this was just released a couple of hours ago, and it'll be on the Visit Estes Park channels as well. But just wanted to share that, as many in the community know, the Estes Park Local Marketing District, also known as Visit Estes Park, was recently engaged in a search process for the next CEO. Near the end of the process, allegations were raised related to one of the finalist candidates. This created the need for the search committee to pause the search and recommend an investigation be completed to determine the veracity of the allegations. The district board agreed with the search committee's recommendation, and a third-party investigator was brought in to complete the investigation. That is now complete, and the district board has been briefed on the outcome via our legal counsel. Based on the investigation's conclusions, while accounts of the evening in question differed and ultimately did not indicate that the candidate engaged in inappropriate behavior, the allegations appeared to be raised in good faith. In addition, there was no finding that the district staff were related to or a source of the allegations whatsoever. However, prior to the investigation concluding, the candidate that was the subject of the allegations withdrew from consideration. This was an unfortunate result, but the board understands the consideration that went into it and wishes the candidate well. In order to move forward, the board had recommended that the search committee reconvene and determine appropriate next steps in finalizing the CEO search process. The search committee held an emergency meeting on Wednesday, March 19th to initiate this review, and will share its recommendation with the board for discussion at the upcoming March 27th board meeting, which is this Thursday. Additional updates will be provided as information becomes available. I wanted to share, we'll obviously have some discussion as a board at that meeting on Thursday. That's Thursday at 2. Like all of our government entity meetings, it is public. You can watch it on Zoom. That link is posted at the visitestespark.com website. I'm going to be advocating that the board will reclaim the search at this time, hear the recommendation from the search committee, whatever that might be, and then take that search into their hands and either close out this current search or evaluate options moving forward. think the search committee has done a wonderful job, done a lot of work in looking at finalists and spending a lot of time talking about what our community needs next. And now I think it's time for the board to step in and take that role, and I'm hopeful that they will rise to the occasion. So I look forward to updating this board on more as we move forward. It has been quite a long and expensive process, and I know that the staff and the rest of the board is antsy to get another leader into the role as soon as possible. And that's what I have to share tonight. Mayor, thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Brown.
So I want to start out by saying I am a graduate of CIA, and I share the views have been expressed. It's a fabulous program. There are a lot of trustees who have gone through that program, by the way, and it kind of led me to ultimately seek to be appointed to the Housing Authority Board and ultimately to run for election. Why the hell anyone elected me, I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, it's a great opportunity. I really do encourage you to remain involved. And on the years that we do CIA every other year, but we do CPA on the other years, which is the Community Police Academy. So not only can you be a secret agent, but you can be a certified public accountant too, as well. You know, some of these things are not appropriate. You know, CIA may not be for everyone, but there's a lot of people that volunteer for the police auxiliary as a result of the CPA program, and it's a great program. I very much encourage you to consider that, even if you are kind of burned out from a lengthy CIA thing. It's actually a little more fun. We had one of the things we did in the CPA was a active shooter situation, not a real one, and it was just fascinating. And so if you're interested at all in what happens in our law enforcement arena, that's another good program that'll start next spring or next fall, I guess. So I'm trying to sell that as well. I am the liaison to the Housing Authority, and the only really major thing that happened at our Housing Authority board was they're in the process of getting some new software that's going to streamline the maintenance of all of the facilities that the Housing Authority manages. They have now, I think, 335 units that they're managed. So it's a very extensive thing that they do, and they have serious problems really maintaining the facilities and maintaining communication about what needs to be done. This ought to help quite a bit. I have one other thing that's not related to the housing things, but I am going to propose, and I've talked to most of the board members about this, that we consider at our April 9th or 8th meeting a very minor amendment to the development code, and I'll give you a little context for why I'm bringing this up. The chocolate factory has purchased the building immediately to their east and proposes to demolish the existing structure and build a structure to house an antique carousel. There's some question whether such a use would be a legal accessory use to the chocolate factory, and I'll explain why that question arises. And the town staff is unwilling at the time to permit the use under the current development code in light of very, very limiting language concerning entertainment activities in the downtown zoning district. The current development code was adopted in connection with controversies surrounding the building of Fun City at the time of that development. The town was understandably concerned that the downtown core would be converted into a carnival of some sort, and as such, they adopted this very limiting language on entertainment uses within the downtown core. I believe that the concern represented by our development code provision is focused on an outdoor amusement park facility in the downtown core, and not on a single amusement device situated indoors and adjacent to a retail establishment. There are several examples of carousels in malls around the country and similar entertainment devices being situated near or in other retail establishments. For example, you may know this, but Shields in Johnstown has a Ferris wheel inside and a very similar kind of entertainment device to a carousel. I believe that the indoor carousel should be a permissible accessory use in a retail establishment, such as the Chocolate Factory, in the downtown corridor. And in my mind, it's similar to some of the devices that are already permitted, such as, certainly bigger, but pool tables and pinball machines and things of that nature. The amendment I would like to discuss at our April 8th meeting would be to clarify that an indoor carousel in a retail establishment is an acceptable use in the downtown district under the development code, so as to enable the Chocolate Factory to pursue its plans, which I think could be a very significant improvement, particularly to West Elkhorn and to the area that we're now working on, Cleve Street. I would ask the town attorney Kramer if the board approves moving in that direction to consider draft a very simple and limited amendment to the development code to specifically permit an indoor carousel as an accessory use in the downtown district. So that is my request for the board.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
So thanks for taking care of my technology debate issue earlier. So rooftop rodeo. The rooftop rodeo parade route is on Elkhorn this year. It'll be on July 7th at 10 a.m. They're still encouraging businesses and clubs, service organizations to be involved in that parade. If you'd like to do that, want some more details, you can go to the website at www.rooftoprodeo.com and then look under parade. The mutton busting entries, online entries, are on April 1st. I think it was last year, first year, they decided not to do the lottery on that day, picking kids as they came in. So basically, the way to get involved would be to get in the online entry. So if you have a child, or you are a child, or you have a grandchild that would like to do mutton busting, April 1st is the day for that. Real quick comment about the CIA. I thoroughly enjoyed the little class. I mean, I didn't think I'd be able to talk for a whole hour, and shocker, I didn't have a problem talking for a whole hour. But it was really enjoyable, and they had some great questions. So again, encouraging everybody to do that. It makes even when you have an issue in town easier for you, because you know who to talk to and a little bit how things work. Because sometimes people just think they can just come and talk to one person and get things done. That's usually not the case. So it kind of gives you a little better idea of who people are and how things work. So if anyone gets involved, that's the way to do it. And that's all.
Thank you. I'll add no additional comments. I stay busy, and many of you I interact with quite a bit, and I'll continue to stay busy. And it's a good busy. It's on your behalf and trying to do the best things for the town of Estes Park. We'll move on to the town administrator report. Town Administrator Mahalik.
Thanks, Mayor. A number of items this evening, but first perhaps we can tackle the Trustee Brown's requested code amendment. Per town policy, agenda policy, the board may approve that as a consensus or may call for a vote to set that for the April 8th agenda. Staff either needs consensus from the board or affirmative action to add that item per your agenda policy.
I'm good with it. To me, that very, very restrictive kind of, I think, reactionary approach to the code that said movies, music, and pool tables. It doesn't even have video games in there, I don't think, and I think those are in the downtown corridor. So restrictive, and in this case, I'd be okay with it going forward.
I'm supportive of adding it as a topic. I think I'll have thoughts to share on the actual prospect, and I'd like to hear from the community too. I'm sure we'll have some folks wanting to weigh in. So I think I'm supportive of adding it if that's within Attorney Kramer's capacity.
I can make it happen, no question. If it's going to be a code amendment ordinance, then I'll have to interpret exactly how to word that, make sure that this is included as something that would be customary and clearly incidental to the use that's proposed, because that's another requirement under accessory uses, but it sounded very narrow to me. Indoor carousel as a permitted accessory use in a very specific district. So I think I can more or less have an ordinance that accomplishes that intent if that's the board's desire.
I'm fine with adding it.
There's your consensus.
I'm fine with adding it.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to talk about CIA very quickly. PIO Miller wrote my statements for me, and PIO Miller is very humble. So Kate didn't mention herself in my comments, and I should have caught that and mentioned her. None of that happens without our Public Information Officer, Kate Miller. So I do want to thank her for everything that she does to make the Community Information Academy happen. It's not an insignificant amount of work, and I really appreciate everything she does to make that come off without a hitch. Two additional items. March is a very lengthy policy governance monitoring report. I report on policies 3.1, 3.2, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6, 3.9, 3.10, and 3.11. I am pleased to report compliance in all those areas. I'm happy to answer any questions if the board has them. And then the final thing, our parking and transit manager, Dana Klein, has submitted a proposal to rename the post office parking lot to the Baldwin Park parking lot. Under policy 208, I'm to bring that forward for you to see if you would like to schedule that for a regular consideration at a regular board meeting. If so, I would schedule that for April 8th, and it does require a unanimous vote from the board to rename a town facility.
I'm good with forward motion.
That's all I have tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Let's get to the consent agenda. I'll read it in full, so it's in the record. Bills, item 1, bills. Item 2, town board meeting and study session minutes dated March 11, 2025. Item 3, town board strategic planning study session number 1, minutes dated March 13, 2025. Item 4, Estes Park Planning Commission minutes dated February 18, 2025. Item 5, Resolution 2125, Larimer County Contract Amendment for the Fish Hatchery Housing Project to remove restrictive American Rescue Plan, ARPA, language requirements and extend the timeline to December 31st, 2027. Item 6, revisions to Town Board Policy 101, board assignments. Item 7, these were all in the packet, of course. Appointment to the Estes Park Housing Authority Board of Commissioners of Stacy Cioli. Is that close enough? Cioli? To complete a term expiring April 30th, 2027. Item 8, acceptance of Town Administrator Policy Governance Monitoring Report. Are there any... Does any member of the public request to have an item removed from the consent agenda, including trustees? I see none. I'll take a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we accept that consent agenda as you presented it.
I'll second that.
Motion made to accept the consent agenda as written by trustee Eigel, seconded by trustee Youngland. Any other comments? Town clerk, we can vote. The voting result, unanimous passage of the consent agenda as written. We're into reports and discussion items outside entities. Base funding report, Economic Development and Workforce Council, the EDWC. I think we have Director DePasquale here, and it looks like we've got Ms. Kraft here also to assist the cause.
Thank you. Bear with me while are we on there? No. Do you have our PowerPoint? It was on the agenda, so that's on me if, it's always fun. I'm so- You should just come up here with me when I speak.
Let's see. This one right here, right? That's why I was here.
Yes.
To help with that. Doing great.
Thank you.
And I'll switch it over.
Thank you. So thank you for having us speak tonight. We appreciate you giving us time, and we'll keep it short and sweet. I've been so told. So, how do we do this? Like this?
Yeah, just let me know when you want to go.
Okay. We've talked a little bit before about why economic development is so important. Of course, it's really about the health of our community. It's about our businesses and being there to support, make those connections, those collaborations, so that they can be even more successful than they are now. And that's our role here. We did have a change in our Economic Development and Workforce Council members. Ryan Jordan with Backpacking Light is having a great year. So he was a little bit too busy and he did step down. So we're very excited. We brought in Nick Smith from Lumpy Ridge to be our new council member. We were asked to come over and talk a little bit about 24, and we're going to talk a little bit about 25. So in 2024, I'm not going to read all of these things to you, but this is the work that we built on for this year. This is the work that created what 2025 looks like. The first thing we did was we have created a hospitality training program with American Hotel Lodging Education Institute. We expect to roll that out in mid-April, April 14th. We simply just need to pay the bill. We have everything ready, but you have to prepay for the classes for people to take. So we have they have the list. The classes will be in both English and Spanish. We will have almost a generic hospitality plan or a class that you can take, and then ones that are very specific to job descriptions or performance in hotels and food and beverage. Once we get that up and running, then we will take a look at retail because that's been asked as well. We have our monthly Economic Development and Workforce Council newsletter, which some of you receive, and if any of you want it, I'm happy to add you to the list. I expect that we would be able to make that happen twice a month now with additional staff, and there's just a ton of material, and there's so many things happening outside of Estes as well, in Larimer County or statewide, that we share those resources, and the due dates are within a month. So I expect that we're going to start adding a second monthly newsletter. We have redesigned base for the 24-25 program. Bill Welter, we brought him in to facilitate. He's been great to work with. So in that last session will be April 7th, and from there, though, we do know that we need to revise it again for 25 and 26. So we're going to be bringing in some former base participants and graduates and working on that. We had one mini sprint, and that was on modern strategies for managing small business profit and cash flow. We are collaborating with both county and state partners. We had our first site visit for a company that was interested in having us be the test site for a self-sufficient canopy that produced its own power, water, all sorts of things. So because it was something that they needed land, simply land, no infrastructure or anything. So we're still talking to them. It's a pretty big project, and the county is on board because that's where it would probably fit best. But we've worked with the county departments to make sure we're a viable option. Most of the work that's been done in 24 was done by our working council. They have been a great asset, but it is a working council. They don't just get to show up at meetings once a month. There's a lot of work that happens, and I'm very grateful for everything that you guys have done, so thank you. I was fortunate enough, I'm part of the Larimer and Weld County Business Retention and Expansion Cohort. We work together, we meet once a month. I'm part of the group that manages the agendas, and as well as I help co-facilitate the recent retreat. There's a lot of things happening, and one of the things that's the goal of this group is that no business will leave Northern Colorado. So if there's a project that might be good in Frederick, but they don't have the space, they're going to make sure that somebody in, say, Windsor or Loveland or Fort Collins, it's really about, we want that business, so we're going to work together, even though in theory, we all compete against each other for pieces of business or for new business. And then the last thing is, with all these things that we've been doing with economic development, Estes now has a presence outside of town. We're part of the NOCO Ready, the Regional Economic Development Initiative. We're part of the Workforce Development Board, and recently I was appointed to the Executive Committee for the Larimer County Workforce Development Board, and I've been to 2 whole meetings so far. So there's a lot. That's what's happened so far this year, and Christine's going to bring out 25.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to share some highlights of what we've been doing through 2024. I first just want to say thank you to all of you for supporting our transitionary time. I understand that we had a space of time as we redesigned what economic development work looked like in Estes Park. And I am really pleased to be on this side of that process where we have activity, connectivity, and Colleen, who has done such a great job immersing herself into learning both economic development and creating those connections outside of Estes Park. So I'm going to hit some highlights of 2025, just so you know what's coming and can choose to participate, or please, if you have questions or anything you would like to know from us, please do reach out. We have a robust operating plan that focuses on community education, caseworking, workforce recruitment and retention, and communications, outreach, and funding. We are hosting a seasonal event welcome for seasonal and J1 workforce to ensure that we have some consistency in our community as we have workers come into town, and give them a similar welcome as we want to give our guests. We will continue to offer workshops and have offered several already for our business community. Colleen talked about the workforce and hospitality training. I think that we have made so much progress in starting to solve some of the workforce and childcare issues that we have faced, and we now have the opportunity to focus on our workforce as well. We do have some caseworking goals. Caseworking is working with individual business owners that would like connections, mentoring, coaching to ensure that, as Colleen mentioned, we don't want people leaving the business community unless that's their choice. If they need support, we want that to happen. And also, we completed a USDA Rural Business Development Grant application and are looking forward to results on that. Part of that application requirement was leveraged funding. So our funding, bless you, from both the town of Estes Park and our other investors is critical in order to leverage those funds. The USDA and that specific group understands that when many come together in this specific area of economic development, it's a better outcome. And we do have great news. We hired an operations manager here in March. So the council has been very active, and we're appreciative of that, but look forward to having some extra capacity there. One quick comment I'll make before I wrap up is, again, thank you for your support of this effort of economic development. Supporting small business is extraordinarily important, and giving it attention and focus is something that we want to be ahead of, not behind on. I was fortunate to attend an advocacy group in DC last fall, and Senator Bennett was talking specifically about the decline in small businesses across the country and looking at the impacts of that and how we can support shifting that change because of the massive economic impact that small business has, whether it's here in Estes Park, in Colorado, or across the country. So I was pleased to be a smaller community on the, I don't want to say leading edge, but taking initiative to support our business community and provide resources. So again, thank you. If any of you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me, to Colleen, or I'm happy to entertain any questions y'all have tonight.
Questions, comments? Trustee Brown, no. Trustee Igoe, you passed on the hand.
Thanks, Mayor. So this is a report on base funding, so we provide some funding for the program. How would the program be different if that funding was not made available through the town? What would the impact of, I mean, is there a quick answer to that? Would it be a yes or a no, go or no go, or what would happen?
I don't want to be too gloom and doom, but I don't know that it would exist. I think the town's funding is critical for the support of the program. We have other investors that participate. However, the town is the biggest participant. In part, that is because the town does not have somebody employed in economic development. That was not the case a decade ago, well, probably 12, 13 years ago. There was an economic development position within the town. This is a more efficient and collaborative way to accomplish economic development.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate that you came back with a report. It's part of the town's mission, or it's part of the intent of the town, the purpose of the town in strategic planning, to advocate for small business. And when you talk about small business kind of dwindling, these mom and pop, very small businesses are part of what makes Estes Park the way it is. So the two of you as individuals, Colleen and Christina, are so passionate about small business and investing in that, and everything you said tonight, I see you live that, and I think that is why this program has been successful. So I appreciate that, and thank you for your commitment to our business community. Thanks.
Trustee Brown.
So I'm the liaison to your organization.
Thank you.
And I wanted to comment on a couple things. I actually decided to join the BASE program this year, which has been fascinating. Haven't been able to meet every time, but you've got a tremendous consultant that's doing that. He's really very, very good and has done it forever. And it's a great benefit for business people, particularly the startups in the community, to utilize that. The only problem really is you get a lot of people at the front end, and it's such a commitment that you lose people as it goes through. So that might necessitate some sort of redesign, but it's the substance of the program is fabulous. It's really, really good. And I also went to one of the sprint programs, and it was good as well. So the worst thing about it is getting used to saying EDWC rather than EDC. But I compliment you on the quality of what you're doing, and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Trustee Hazelton.
Thank you for the information. I know that's something we've talked about a lot, is making sure we know, where funds are going and what they're producing in the community, and this is really helpful. And I appreciate your succinctness too, because we have a long agenda tonight. So thanks for just packing the punch in what you shared. One thing, I know you've got, the BASE program, and I know you've got sprints and a number of other workshops. And I believe this came up in a prior BASE program kind of attendee group for folks who were like not startup brand new, but maybe want more than just a casual sprint here or there. Has there been any thought about like BASE 2 or like, intermediate BASE or, and there's a lot going on, but I'm just curious if that's been discussed. I can think of specific businesses that gave the feedback of like, I'd love to do the next iteration of this program.
We talked to several of them and asked them to come back and help us look at the current BASE program. The other thing, there's two other things. One, you're right, we do need that second, okay, that was great, now let's keep going. Keeping them meeting together. The fact that we brought on Kylie Schroeder on March 17th, she's awesome, we're very excited. So now that there's another person full-time in the office, that's gonna make a big difference. So we'd like to add that programming, and we think that there could we create some kind of consolidated, could we create a program in Spanish? That's come up, and then at the county level as well, nobody's doing that. So we were looking to see, could we create or partner with somebody? There's another chamber that might be, like there's opportunities there, and so I think that you're right. There's some opportunities to grow these programs out now that we just we've gotten the first 4 months behind us of really getting a lot done before everybody hits July. Because by July, they won't talk to me anymore, right? And then in November, they start talking to me again. So that's why you see, like this week we had 3 workshops. It's just, we're just trying to get as much of this value in now so that they have some time. And then, but that, you're right.
Makes sense. Yeah, and I know, and it's a hard thing to capture too, especially because it's such it's a commitment, right? Like it's an investment. So, but just a thought, and I know you've heard about that, so I was just curious about an update on it. And then my second thing, I know this has been talked about, I'm sure you guys have too, but I would love to continue to see development in a like exit strategy type sprint or conversation. I know Diane's on the council, and she and I talk about it a lot, and I've witnessed several folks in this community, there's just not a great game plan for how to exit your business or how to welcome in new buyers and how that whole process works. So I think that could be a place, especially with so many small business owners in this community, that there could be great value to say, okay, you're 10 years out from wanting to retire. How do you start thinking about either selling your business or moving it to the next phase? And then how do you welcome in that next generation of business owners?
Hope is working with us from SBDC, Larimer County SBDC, on the succession plan, but you're right, like welcoming those future businesses, that's a piece we need. That's a good take, right? So,
Hope is a person, not a strategy.
I apologize. Hope Hartman, yes. She really, Colleen,
She
what do
should
you
put
think?
that on her business cards.
I know,
I'm
right?
a person, not a
But
strategy.
that's important to her as well, and so between her and Diane, we've had one session, we'll bring the group back, but what came out of that was it's about building value. You have to be able to determine the value of your business, and a lot of them aren't able to do that to be able to sell.
Yeah,
They get so frustrated by November, they're just like, I'm done, I just worked, 200 days in a row. So there is a piece there that we need to,
yeah.
we need to
And
be
the
able to prove
process
value.
of that sale is so complicated. There's so many details there. So anyway,
Thank
thank you for the
I
report.
appreciate it.
Trustee Youngland.
Sorry.
Okay. Hey.
I just want to give kudos to the report, concise, impressive. I was very happy to see what you've done and where you're going. So good job, and I'm sure you're very anxious for the new hire to get on board. I can't imagine.
She comes to everything with me. Hi, we're going here, we're going there. It's
There you
awesome.
go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, ladies.
Thanks from me too. Very good presentation. And I won't make it longer by also praising you on your conciseness, because we do like that. Anyway,
Thank you.
thanks very much.
Thank you.
We have a couple planning commission items. We're going to move to items reviewed by the planning commissioner staff for town board final action. Both of them are public hearings. And so for the first one, this order of business will be the public hearing on Planning Commission Action Item 1A, Resolution 2225 regarding Elkhorn Plaza condominiums. It's the other Elkhorn, it's not the project. Amended plat, Elkhorn Plaza condominium HOA, owner applicant. At this hearing, the Board of Trustees shall consider the information presented during the public hearing from the town staff, from the applicant, public comment, and written comments received on this application. Has any trustee had any ex parte communications concerning this application which are not part of the board packet? Everybody's sitting motionless or shaking their head no. Any member of the board may ask questions at any stage of the public hearing, which may be responded to at that time. The public hearing is open. Mr. Hornbeck, you have the floor.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and trustees. The subject property consists of 3 parcels, 540 and 550 West Elkhorn Avenue, as well as an undeveloped parcel to the north that's unaddressed. In total, the property is about 1.1 acres in size. It's currently zoned CO, Commercial Outline. The northern parcel was acquired by the condo HOA in 1971. It's undeveloped and lies largely within the special flood hazard area and is subject to the Development Code river setback of 30 feet. This makes any substantial improvements to that northern parcel highly unlikely in the future. The 2 southern parcels, 540 and 550 West Elkhorn, contain 2 residential condominium buildings built in 1968 and 1970 with a total of 15 units. The parcels were recently rezoned in 2024 from RM, multifamily residential, to CO, outline commercial, making them consistent with the northern parcel, so they all have the same zoning as of today. The Board of Adjustment approved some variances regarding the decks on the buildings last year as well to construct larger decks than the current ones, which encroach into the required 30-foot river setback. The proposal has been submitted on behalf of the individual condo owners by the HOA to combine the 3 parcels, amend the limited and general common elements to accommodate the larger decks, and to vacate an easement. Some site photos just to give context to it. The application materials indicate there's a desire to combine the 3 parcels into a single parcel to be consistent with the property's condo declarations. The new decks are being expanded beyond their current footprint, which necessitates amending the plat to expand the limited common element associated with each condo unit owner's portion of the deck. And a final component is vacating an unused private road easement the road itself was never built or needed. It provided access to the northern parcel. Now with the unified ownership, there is no need for that easement. The proposal is consistent with the development code standards, specifically the zoning standards, comprehensive plan, and utility service. No changes are required or envisioned with this subdivision plat. No disadvantages have been identified with the proposal. Public notice was completed in accordance with code requirements. Staff has not received any public comments on the proposal. Staff recommends town board approve the resolution and has provided sample motions for your reference. I do want to note the applicant is present for any questions for them, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time as well.
I learned today that the reason planning staff makes recommendations is because it's actually an ethics thing that is taught to planners as they go through the process. It's American standard, and it is an ethical thing, other than just saying it meets all the code check marks that we're required to do. And that's a wonderful thing. So we've got that there. My question typically, are there any other conditions for approval not in the staff report, including, for example, environmental considerations?
There are none, no.
Does the applicant have a presentation?
No.
Okay. Public comment, we have an opportunity for public comment, and then I'll turn it over to the trustees for additional questions. Any person will be given the opportunity to address the board concerning this application. All individuals must state their name and address for the record, and those comments will be timed. I see no comments coming forth regarding this application. Therefore, because the applicant did not give a presentation, we don't need a rebuttal. Town clerk, have any other communications been received in regard to the application which are not in the board packet?
Nothing additional, Mayor.
Board of Trustees, other questions or comments?
I don't have any questions, and I don't see any popping up. I would move that we approve this resolution number 2225.
We can't do that until I close the public hearing, I think.
I'll stand by.
Yeah. So if there are no further questions, all reports, statements, exhibits, and written communications presented will be accepted as part of the record. The public hearing is closed. I'll request a motion.
Mayor, I would move that the Town Board of Trustees approve Resolution 2225.
Second.
The motion to approve this item by Trustee Eigel and Trustee Hazelton seconded it. Any other comments? Seeing none, Town Clerk will vote. Oh, wow, you're ahead of me here.
We're missing one vote.
Yep, there we go. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
We will move to the second public hearing on the agenda in a different part of town. This public hearing is on Planning Commission Item 1B, Ordinance 325, Zoning Map Amendment, 1895 Fall River Road, Kinley Built LLC, owner applicant. At this hearing, the Board of Trustees, and I have to say it again, shall consider the information presented during the public hearing from the town staff, from the applicant, public comment, and written comments received on the application. Has any trustee had ex parte communications concerning this application? Very good. Any member of the board may ask questions at any stage of the public hearing. And this public hearing is open. I had Planner Washam listed, but it appears that Planner Hornbeck is back for us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Standing in for Ms. Washam tonight. The subject rezoning request is to rezone the subject property from CO, commercial outline, to A, accommodation zoning. The subject property has an unused office building currently, built in 1975. Was most recently used as the home of the Rocky Mountain Conservancy's office. The site is very steep with an average slope of over 30%, and therefore there are some slope protection standards applicable to any development of the site. Additionally, the site is located within a steep slope area. However, no development is proposed in this steep slope area of the site. Much of the parcel is also located in a high tree wildfire hazard area, and new construction is required to comply with standards in the development code regarding wildfire hazard mitigation. Lastly, the site is a portion in a mapped high-use area for bighorn sheep, as shown in the 1996 comprehensive plan. Site design of the proposed development shall mitigate or offset potential adverse impacts to wildlife. An application was submitted concurrently with this rezoning application for a development plan, which was approved conditionally by the Planning Commission, subject to this rezoning being approved by town board. Just catching up on some of the graphics of what I just covered, the wildfire hazard area, existing zoning, CO commercial outline, a future land use designation of the property is mixed use centers and corridors. The property is about 2.3 acres in size and is surrounded by unincorporated Larimer County on essentially three sides. Those properties are zoned EVA1, which is Estes Valley Accommodations Low Intensity. The majority of uses in the surrounding area are residential and low to medium density accommodations as of today. Some site photos, or a site photo of existing conditions for reference. The hotel motel use would be allowed under the rezoning per the development code table 4.4. The proposal is to rezone the parcel from CO to A. The proposed development includes the demolition of the existing office, construction of a new 9,000 square foot, three-story hotel building, 26 accommodation units, and 2 staff housing units. The existing access to the property would be realigned slightly to better line up with the property to the south, as requested by CDOT. The Public Works Department has reviewed the traffic impact study with the proposed development plan and does find the TIS acceptable and states that no new turn lanes are warranted with the proposal. A number of review criteria exist in the development code for consideration of a rezoning, running through the proposed building elevation on the development plan. Those review criteria include change of conditions. In this case, the adoption of the comprehensive plan in 2022 did change the future land use designation of the subject property from commercial to mixed use centers and corridors. A change of conditions, therefore, is the addition of accommodations as an appropriate future land use on that map. Prior to 2022, the property was used as the Field Institute office for the Rocky Mountain Conservancy. Once that use ceased, the subject property became more of an outlier in the area, with most largely accommodation uses in the corridor. The rezoning proposed is therefore an appropriate action to foster compatibility with those surrounding land uses. The proposed development plan is compatible and consistent with policies and intent of the comp plan and with existing growth and development of the Estes Valley. And an excerpt from the comp plan discussing that mixed-use centers and corridors, kind of the vision for that corridor, and appropriate land uses include medium and high-density accommodations uses. The final item would be ability to provide services, utilities and services, and no service or utility providers provided any objection or concerns with ability to provide those services. The comp plan does have 9 guiding principles for the Estes Valley. A relevant principle includes balanced and managed growth that enhances quality of life, preserves local character, conserves natural resources and wildlife habitat. Some of the specific goals that are relevant to this proposal: protecting scenic character and view sheds, protecting wildlife, recognize wildfire risks and act accordingly to mitigate those, protection of the environment, maintaining a balance between needs of residents, visitors, and protecting the natural environment. And sorry, jumped ahead on this one, already covered that the town, county, and other service providers have the ability to service the property. Advantages, if approved, the would allow for development compatible with the comp plan, the future land use map, and the existing character of the corridor. Would also allow the applicant to move forward with development of the hotel, adding variety of lodging options in the area, and would contribute to local economy while maintaining a high quality physical character. Potential disadvantages, it may increase traffic along the corridor. The traffic impacts study did determine no new acceleration lanes, turn lanes are warranted, given a relatively small increase in traffic. And the property is served by the town's free seasonal transit operations. Lastly, the proposed development is in a high-use area for bighorn sheep. However, the property has been developed for around 50 years. Expansion of the footprint of the existing building is fairly minor, and so impacts are expected to be minimal. Public notice was provided in accordance with Development Code standards. There was a public hearing for Planning Commission, which voted unanimously to forward a recommendation of approval of the proposed zone map amendment. A number of findings with those. The Board of Trustees is the decision-making body for the zoning map amendment. The application does comply with the Development Code standards for review. The request was submitted to all applicable review agencies for consideration and comment, Adequate public and private facilities are currently available to serve the subject property. So with that, staff, as well as Planning Commission, recommend approval of the zoning map amendment with sample motions provided for reference. That concludes my presentation at this time.
Does the applicant have a presentation? Any person will be given the opportunity to address the board concerning the application. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? Trustees, questions, comments?
Well, I'll start, Mayor, if I may.
Go for it. Trustee Youngwood.
So on page 76, policy BE 2.1, it says that this, under the staff analysis, that the site design for the proposed development plan is aligned with the staff's recommendation. Basically, if you go down, the site's already developed with an office building and parking lot, so development is not taking place on an undisturbed green field. So the house is 3,280 square feet. A hotel is proposed at 66,000 square feet. Granted, they're requesting 3 stories, but that's if they used 3 levels throughout. If you go back to the picture, that is not the case, but that would be 22,000 square feet for each level. So I question the amount of stating that, and this is also referenced in the Bighorn wildlife disturbance, that there isn't, that basically the footprint is already just where the house is and it's not going to be disturbed more. Can you, I'm not seeing that point. Could you speak to that, or maybe the applicant? I'm concerned with the wildlife habitat on that Bighorn in that area.
Yes, I would ask if the applicant could address, as I'm not as familiar with the particulars of this one.
Okay.
I saw the 9,400 square feet piece, and that's what I thought was happening, was 3 stories on that 3,000, but maybe I'm missing it.
Yeah, it said in somewhere, it said that the
Area of
hotel will be
disturbance.
66,000 square feet hotel.
So, yeah.
So anyway,
Go ahead.
could you address?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm Kyle Pollack with the civil engineer on the application. So yeah, mayors and trustees. That 66,000 number is the total site disturbance used for construction area that would be touched during the construction process. The footprint itself is 9,400 square feet for the actual hotel that will be in place. There's an existing parking lot and the current building already in place. And overall, in the drainage shed area, kind of the area of the site, the majority of the site in the higher steeper slope areas will not be used or disturbed in those
I think
areas.
if you back up one more slide, you would see those numbers, or it was pretty close to the drawing. There it is.
Yeah, but the area of disturbance, okay, your concern, my concern for wildlife disturbance, even though it's going to be just during construction, you don't feel is going to be an issue for the Bighorn.
So overall, in that disturbance area, a general, and I don't have those exact numbers, but a large portion of that is going to be re-landscaped. There's a landscape buffer along the road itself. So that's to, handle any of the proposed design, and then we could, look at what that final number would be, but some of that will return to natural condition during that time.
Okay. Another concern I had in reading through is the parking spaces. Being a hotelier myself, I know, there might be a party of 4 and they each bring a vehicle. And so I have concern on the parking spots that are there and proposed, as well as if the spa is open for public, that's if that has been figured in for additional parking. And then also there's 2 housing units. It's hard to tell if this is a hotel that just is going to accommodate 2 people per room or what have you, but I have trepidation on the amount of space for parking. And I know that area well, and I know people are always pulling off of the highway of Fall River and parking on the dirt there. And then there's also a pretty good dirt parking area across the way. Which, they can't use as overflow. So I was wondering what their approach is on that, to have sufficient parking for a spa and a meeting room. Is this meeting room for outside people? That's going to add the parking spots. And I didn't know if that was taken into consideration on the plan.
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. For the parking calculations, we did work with the town planning staff on what the standard requirements are for the different uses, and those different uses were incorporated. We are, with the development plan itself that the Planning Commission reviewed, there was a variance that came in with that, I think, to lower that requirement by 3 spaces based on the landscape buffer that is currently at the front of the property and the parking encroaching into some of that. So we worked to have that variance approved at the Planning Commission because of the site steepness on the back of the site. So to move, that whole parking lot further up the slope was going to be even more disturbance and have a lot of vertical impacts on the backside of that. So that's where that variance came from. But the parking calculations did include the different uses for the spa, the employee housing, as well as the rooms themselves. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we did use the town standard for that process.
Okay, and also, was the meeting room involved in that calculation?
I would have to confirm that.
Okay. Like I said, that is a concern of mine, especially if those two businesses or opportunities, the spa and the meeting room, are open to the public. Now you've got, your guest parking, and then you have additional parking, which has a concern of mine. Especially the bigger the cars and trucks are anymore, it seems like it takes up a lot of space. So I think those are my questions at the present time. Thank you.
Trustee Brown.
So I have a question for Paul and then a comment. The applicant is seeking A zoning, and I know there's A1 zoning too, and this seems sort of in between. What's the difference between A zoning and A1?
A1 zoning is the low-intensity accommodations, so it's lower density accommodations. Hotels, I believe, are limited in size to, I believe it's 8 units, 8 rooms.
Just 8 units.
You could have some cabins, but no more than 20 total units, I believe.
Okay.
And then there's density calculations based on lot size and other factors, so really density.
Okay. My comment relates to the change of conditions in the area. We've struggled with this big time, as you well know. And the one thing I don't like about the staff discussion about this is that you're using the comprehensive plan as a basis for a change in conditions. I think there are other things that are changing conditions, but the problem is the second criteria is that it's consistent with the development plan. So I personally don't believe that the development plan itself should be a change in conditions. Now, you did say, however, that the use as an office has ceased, so it's currently unoccupied. And it's an outlier in the area based on other zoning around it. And so I think the ceasing of the use as a office and the fact that it's an outlier is a pretty good idea for change of conditions. But we're going to struggle with this, and we're going to move forward with this, I am sure, as we go through the development code. But I personally would support the staff recommendation on this. It makes sense to me.
Other comments or questions? Town Clerk, has there been any other communications received in regard to the application that are not in the packet?
Nothing additional, Mayor.
Board of Trustees, other comments?
So, there's been no public comment at all on this? Is that accurate?
No, I think I gave the opportunity and didn't see.
But there's no written or
no.
no, like, there's a community meeting, and so there's no public. So I would support the planning commission's unanimous perspective that this is a reasonable move forward, and I would like to make a motion when I'm allowed.
As soon as we close the public hearing. Yes. All reports, statements, exhibits, and written communications presented will be accepted as part of the record. The public hearing is closed. Trustee Igo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd move to approve ordinance 0325.
I'll second.
Trustee Igo moved to accept the resolution or, ordinance. And Trustee Hazelton seconded. Any other comments? Seeing none, we can vote.
Yeah, give me a second, Mayor.
I'll let you have 8 seconds.
Mayor, this item doesn't seem to be set up for a vote, so I'm going to go ahead and request a voice vote on this one.
Okay.
Trustee Igo?
Aye.
Trustee Lancaster?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sinek?
Aye.
Mayor Hall?
Aye.
Trustee Youngland? Aye. Trustee Hazelton?
Aye.
And Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next. And thanks, Planner Hornbeck and our friend from Kinley. I missed your name, sorry. Onward. We have Resolution 2325, intergovernmental grant agreement with the Colorado Energy Office for grid hardening budgeted. We have Director Bergston, and I think Line Superintendent Lockhart is here if and as needed. That is the item. Let's go ahead with the staff report. That would be you.
He's definitely needed. I'm here to queue up the presentation for him. So with that, I will turn it over to Line Superintendent Lockhart.
Good evening. Thank you guys for taking a minute to listen to this. So last year about this time, we went for this grant, for this grid hardening grant. We were awarded it in September. And then things happened with the federal grants around, let's say, February, January. And last week, we were told that we can move forward with this project. So we're here tonight to get the board's approval to move forward with this grant. Let me give you a little presentation here on what this grant is. So this grant was built for rural areas, just like Estes Park. It's a grid hardening grant, so it's to upgrade your infrastructure to underground it or to put insulated tree cable up. The total grant is going to be for $722,000. The matching funding is $184,000, which we are able to use in-kind labor. So this will be our internal staff doing the work, and that's going to be our match to move forward with this grant for reimbursement. The location of this project is off of Elm Road. This here is what we call an express circuit. It will be connecting our Marys Lake substation to our Estes Park substation. The green area is about 1,800 feet of underground, we hope, and 2,700 feet of tree cable rebuilding the overhead. The reason why we're not going 100% underground is there's a lot of rock in that location. We're going to start from the north end and start trenching to the south and try to get as much as possible. And if you guys were to approve this, we would start in the month of June and hope to finish it by the end of the year. So, any questions?
Does that conclude the staff report? Okay.
Yes.
Does any member of the public request to speak on this item? Seeing none, trustees, questions, answers?
You have to speak at the mic. Yeah, yeah, please come up.
And please state your name and address, and I'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Caitlin Reeves at 260 Elm Road, and I just want to say that I support this project. Thank you.
That was short. That was good.
Questions, comments from the board?
Quick one. Joe, when you said we hope to underground this,
Yeah.
is that not a sure thing? Is this dependent on other projects? What's that mean?
I walked the whole project with our trenching staff.
Yep.
There might be 100 to 200 feet of questionable on the north end. The goal is to trench as much as possible. I know we can trench from the very top, from the north end of this project. When I say we hope 1,800 feet, it could be 1,600 feet.
Okay, but it's not a yes or no?
It's not a yes or no. No, we're going to start trenching.
Okay, thanks.
Seeing no further comments, I would take a motion.
Sorry. Sorry, I got to sneeze.
I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 2325.
Second.
A motion made by trustee Youngland for passage of the resolution, seconded by trustee Hazelton. Any other comments or sneezes? And we can take a vote. You're good. Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. and
Thank you, guys.
Bergson.
Thank you. I'm not sick. I'm just got allergies, by the way.
I'm not going to leave your side regardless. Reports and discussion items. We will begin the discussion for the annexation referral, Elkhorn Lodge Phase 2. Senior Planner Hornbeck, you are back to the podium, and if you could give us the report.
All right. Good to see you all once again. The item before you tonight is a referral in accordance with the state statute on annexations. The intent is simply to inform you of this annexation petition that the town has received. No formal action is required or needed at this time. Given that annexations are rather uncommon in Estes and rather convoluted thanks to the state statute requirements, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the process, and there's a little more detail in the memo if desired. So running through the process, a neighborhood meeting is the first step required by the development code and was held in December of last year. Steps 2 through 6 are all governed by the Municipal Annexation Act in state statute. So the referral of the annexation petition is the item tonight. Again, no formal action. There would then be a series of other meetings before the board with required actions. A substantial compliance resolution would be the first step. This would be the town board determining whether the content of the annexation petition substantially complies with the Municipal Annexation Act. So what that means essentially is the petition must include the proper signatures, addresses of property owners, identify the property, include the request, state that it's desirable, et cetera. So you're not taking action on the annexation itself, just determining whether the petition is compliant with statute. No date has been set for that as of this time. After that does occur, within 30 to 60 days, an eligibility resolution is required. And at this time, town board would determine whether the property is eligible for annexation. The primary consideration would be a 1/6 contiguity with existing town limits, with some exceptions that really aren't applicable on this particular case. Should that proceed, there would then be an annexation ordinance, which would be the actual action by which the annexation is proceeds and is really approved by town board at that time. Additional steps, establishment of zoning can occur at that time or within 90 days thereafter. And other applications can also occur with that establishment of zoning or sometime thereafter, such as a development plan or planned unit development zoning overlay, which both of which are contemplated in this circumstance. So with that, I'll get into some of the details of this specific proposal. The applicant has requested annexation of a 40-acre property. This is a largely undeveloped property to the southwest of the historic Elkhorn Lodge and under the same ownership of the lodge. The property features considerable topography, areas of dense forests, as well as open shrubland. Application materials indicate a desire by the applicant to develop two hotels, each with around 100 rooms, 55 to 65 what they call treehouse cabins, which I think are essentially elevated cabins, as well as relocation of 8 to 10 historic cabins from the historic Elkhorn Lodge property. A development plan would be required to outline or to entitle the specifics of those development concepts. It is not a development plan. It is not under consideration at this time. The property included in this petition for annexation may also be subject to future planned unit development zoning overlay. And all of these applications would be quasi-judicial items heard by the board or planning commission at future meetings. This agenda item is strictly on the annexation itself. So as mentioned, steep topography on the site. Slopes generally range from about 20 to 30% on most of the site. There is a ridge that runs southeast across the site. It is part of an identified ridgeline protection area. Any subsequent development would be therefore subject to ridgeline protection standards of the development code. Given the slopes on the site, the development code limitations on grading and site disturbance will also be relevant with future development. Those limitations include changes to the natural grade, generally a maximum of 10 feet, and maximum retaining wall heights, generally 6 feet. The site is located within two mapped hazard areas, both wildfire and steep slopes. As such, a wildfire and geologic hazard mitigation plan will both be required. These mitigation plans are typically reviewed at the subdivision or development plan stage of a project. However, such plans could be requested now for consideration with the annexation, should town board direct staff to proceed with annexation. The surrounding area includes a residential neighborhood to the north, with homes on lots ranging from about 1/3 of an acre to 1 acre in size. Larger lot single-family homes are located to the east. These are about 8 to 10 acre lots in general. Those lots are subject to conservation easements held by the land trust that limit development. Properties to the south are industrial and commercial in nature. To the west are more single-family homes on lots ranging from about 1 to 10 acre in size. The University of Northern Colorado's Old Man Mountain Retreat Center is located on the 80-acre parcel to the northwest. The UNC property abuts and provides informal trail access to the national park. The subject property's current zoning within Larimer County is Estes Valley Rural Estate. That zoning permits relatively low-density single-family residential development. The maximum allowed density is 1 unit per 2.5 acres. The future land use map in the comp plan designates the property as low-density accommodations, which is intended for uses such as rustic lodges, resorts, and cabins that are developed in rural areas at lower density and intensity than urban hotel or motel style lodging. The comp plan states the future land uses provide a guide for land use policy decisions that direct growth according to character and intensity of use. The zoning, which would most closely correspond to that low-density accommodations land use category, is the A1 accommodations, which is the low-intensity accommodations district. That zoning allows small hotels up to 8 guest rooms, as well as resort lodges and cabins up to 20 guest rooms. The A1 district also includes a maximum density per guest room and reductions required based on slopes in excess of 12%. With the application, the applicant has requested the A accommodation zoning, which allows hotels and resort lodges and cabins. It does not limit hotels to small hotels, meaning they can be larger than 8 rooms, or place a limit of the 20 rooms for lodges or cabins like the A1 zone does. The A zone does have a overall maximum density similar to the A1, just at a higher density. Staff did conduct a kind of high-level analysis of possible range of density that could be developed under different scenarios. Under current county zoning, we would expect anywhere from about 10 to 16 residential single-family homes. They could potentially all be eligible for accessory dwelling units as well. Under the A1 zone, which is the low-intensity accommodations in the town, they would likely accommodate 75 to 125 accommodation units with 10 to 20 employee housing units. Under the A zoning, anywhere from 450 to 750 accommodations units with 65 to 110 employee housing units. It's impossible at this time to calculate exact density, given a site-specific development plan is needed to calculate both the amount of land needed for roadways, which is deducted from the density calculations, as well as the exact average slope of the site, which also would impact density. The applicant has indicated they will be pursuing a planned unit development zoning overlay in addition to the requested A zoning. Should that move forward, they would need to demonstrate a public benefit required by the Estes Park Development Code. Again, neither the A zoning or PUD are under formal consideration at this time in the process and cannot formally begin until the substantial compliance resolution is approved, one of those many steps outlined at the beginning. Conceptual site plan that was provided with the application and a slightly zoomed in version. Now going to cover some of the other factors on the site: utilities and services. Town provides domestic water to the site. There's an existing 12-inch water main crossing the site. The water division has indicated there's adequate water volume and pressure to serve the site, as well as the potential future development, and that no line extensions are anticipated. Electric service is provided by the town. Power and Communications indicated there are no major concerns with serving the property. Sanitary sewer does not currently extend to the site, but there is an 8-inch sewer main to the south in Elm Road, as well as to the north in both Old Ranger Drive and on the historic lodge property. The site actually straddles the 2 sewer districts in town, Estes Park Sanitation and Upper Thompson Sanitation. The applicant has discussed which sewer district would best serve the property and is in ongoing discussions with the two sewer districts. Regardless of which district serves the property, both have indicated they have adequate capacity to do so, but the applicant would be obligated to extend necessary infrastructure to serve sanitary sewer. The fire district has indicated they are able to serve the property. They have requested a minimum of 2 points of access to the site. Fire sprinklers would be required in all buildings. A wildfire mitigation plan would also be required with development. Worth noting that the fire district charges an impact fee with all building permits, which helps offset the additional burden of growth on the district. So they would receive impact fees with building permits to help offset those costs. Police department indicated they are also able to serve the property, but did caution in general that more development in town eventually creates the need for more officers. The police department is supportive of having a connection between Elkhorn Avenue and Moraine Avenue. Site access. A traffic study was prepared by the applicant's traffic engineer, and it analyzes potential impacts to intersections of Elkhorn Avenue and Philby Court to the north and Moraine Avenue, Elm Road to the south. Public Works has reviewed that study. The study contemplates 3 access points to the site: Elm Road, Elkhorn Avenue, through the existing lodge property on a private drive, and an emergency-only access to Old Man Mountain Lane. Public Works and CDOT have reviewed potential impacts and provided comments to the applicant. The traffic study states proposed site development would generate, upon completion, approximately 2,200 new weekday daily trips, and as well as Saturday daily trips of around 2,300. The study concludes that nearby studied intersections would experience additional minor delays, but would operate in general consistency with future background conditions. A public street connection between Moraine Avenue and Wonderview Drive has long been a concept in the vicinity of this property. The 1996 comprehensive plan mentions it and states that a bypass west of downtown in the vicinity of the former landfill has been proposed in the past to allow local traffic as well as traffic entering and exiting the national park to bypass the downtown area. In 2003, the Estes Valley Transportation Alternative Study recommended construction of a western bypass and provided high-level analysis of 5 routes. 2 of those alternative routes traverse the subject property, while a third would skirt the eastern boundary. In 2012, a transportation visioning committee of Estes Valley residents produced a report on transportation in the valley. Regarding this western bypass, it was deemed unfeasible in their view during the next 20 years due to high expense and difficulty of proposed routes to meet design criteria. So fast forward to today, the draft transportation plan under review currently appears to recognize the considerable challenges of a conceptual bypass and identifies a reduced scope with a less intensive construction from Elm Road to Old Ranger Drive. This would presumably be a local street connection rather than a larger bypass. Public Works believes a public street connection between Elkhorn and Moraine is an important element for access during future disaster events and recommends this street be required with the proposed annexation. Regardless of what type of vehicular access is provided, pedestrian amenities and linkage requirements would be required by the development code. There are numerous existing recreational trails on the site. The Estes Valley Master Trails Plan identifies those trails as desirable to be formalized and maintained to further connect the town and the national park. And a public access easement could be dedicated with this annexation to, as a means to help implement that vision. Potential advantages and disadvantages of the annexation. Advantages: the annexation would allow the town to control development of the property. It would be subject to town requirements such as ridgeline protection, accommodation density, and wildfire mitigation. In return for annexation, the town can require property owners to meet higher development standards or provide additional measures to mitigate development impacts. The town would receive tax revenue from operation of the proposed hotels, and development could help facilitate a roadway connection between Moraine and Elkhorn. Potential disadvantages: the town would be required to provide municipal services to the property. There would be potential negative impacts on quality of life to nearby residents, potential additional stress on the housing market, and town staff would spend significant time conducting review of this and subsequent applications. No formal action is required. If desired, town board can provide staff and the applicant with direction on the subject request, including a level of support for the annexation and requested accommodations, development, and density. It should be noted this is the first step in annexation, and there will be additional opportunities for town board to provide more detailed direction. Finance and resource impact. All new developments have the potential to impact municipal finances. A detailed financial analysis of this or any new development is not typically done. It could be considered, however, with an annexation. New development can generate additional sales, lodging, property taxes. However, there are costs with provision of services, capital requirements, and ongoing maintenance of facilities. It is anticipated with this proposal, as with any new development, that the cost to extend or improve infrastructure would be borne by the developer, not the town. However, the ongoing maintenance would become the responsibility of the town. Level of public interest is anticipated to be high. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer questions.
So we have at least, I counted maybe 3 additional steps before we would actually get to a vote on an annexation. There were several interim steps, and each of those steps involves presentation to the board in open board session with public comment available, et cetera.
I believe that's correct. One caveat being I think some of those resolutions maybe don't necessarily require the public comment, but certainly at your discretion.
Gotcha.
Mayor,
There's been.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mayor, to interrupt. I just wanted to add to that, as part of that, well, once we initiate the annexation proceedings, we'll be on various timelines and there will be a path for that. But one thing that should be added also is that we'll likely have an annexation agreement that gets developed as part of that as well. That would ultimately be approved by the town board. That would include anything like public improvements. It could include something like a required easement for dedication to the town. That all those things that are discretionary with the town would likely be rolled into that agreement as well.
Thank you, Town Attorney. In addition to the voluminous comment that we've received of varied sorts, via letters or emails or whatever, all of which I believe, when received, have been sent to all trustees, are in the packet, and hopefully have been or will, before we proceed with any further action on the thing, be read in addition to any other public comment that comes in. But is there also a site or portal with development or planning where other comments can be logged that are not provided to the town board? Is that the case?
I think the answer to that question is yes. I think comments come in 2 ways. Some may be sent directly to the planning department, which get uploaded to the website.
And are those visible publicly?
They are.
I mean, I could go out to the planning department on the website and go through those. I guess I'd also encourage all the trustees to take a look at that source of information. It may be duplicative, but better to have all the information rather than just part. The applicant has held a neighborhood open meeting, correct?
That's correct.
I believe I saw this afternoon a document submitted in the public forum from the applicant where there were answers to a lot of the questions that were brought up in that. Yes, correct. And so I would encourage anybody with interest to also look in the public email forum. That document provides additional information from that perspective. So all information is good, all communication is good at this point. Before I turn it over to the trustees for comments, I made a commitment to the audience that I actually, contrary to standard procedure, would open up for 15 minutes of comment. There was a sign-up sheet, correct?
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
I did neglect to mention the applicant has a presentation they would like to share as well, if you'd like to hear that
Yes,
first.
let's go ahead with that, and then we'll proceed with comment. I will take note of the time that we are at 9:10, noting that extension past 10 requires board action.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, trustees. Appreciate your time tonight. I'll try to be very succinct with this. I think Paul did a great job, and I think I want to shift direction a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about what we're here for tonight, which is the referral itself, and then the process moving forward and how we want to be a partner in that. Again, I'm John Romero. I am with Galloway. Let me get this. Tonight with us, we do have East Avenue, the owners, Justin Maybe, Matt Louder. Kyle Pollock is also here. He's our civil engineer. With that, I want to kind of introduce you to Justin, talk a little bit about the history of the site, and then we'll get into the application itself.
Yeah, thank you all for your time. I remember first coming to Estes Park about 7 years ago and falling in love with the area, and it took many years to find a potential place to do something here. We're a smaller company that focuses at entrances to national parks. We love the beauty, we love creating something unique, and we love creating experiences that help people change lives and brings family and friends together. And when we first saw the Elkhorn Lodge, we loved learning more and more about the history. It took us a while to actually get it under contract. Then it took us a while to go through this process that we're going through now. But it's been a great experience for us to be here, and we appreciate all the support from the community throughout this, as we've been able to preserve a lot of the history of Estes Park. Overall, our vision is to preserve the history in a meaningful way of Estes Park. If you come out to the site now, we did something that most people told us was impossible. We elevated the original lodge, in some cases up to 8 feet, and put it back down onto a new firm foundation. We've already withstood huge winds, and it's way more stable now, and hopefully will live on for many more generations. And the stories will be told to our kids and grandkids about that lodge. We've also moved a lot of the historical cabins. And when we originally came through this process to do the PUD, we were required to do a few things, and once we learned more and more in the process, we actually saved more cabins. We saved more of the lodge. We saved more of the buildings than what we were even contemplating, because we love the story, and like I said, we like telling that history. What we're trying to do with this phase 2 is to continue to build upon that. Now, we want to move some more of the cabins that we originally weren't planning on preserving up into this development, and then we want to continue to tell a story as we move up the mountain, and we bring in a different level of experience. There's been a lot of interest from bigger brands. And while we think that there's a value to having a Marriott or a Hilton in there too, we do want to continue to have it be more boutique and have it look and feel more like this lodge. So if you look at the existing hotel in phase 1, it looks like this lodge. And as you move up to phase 2, we want it to feel like, it's like when you walk on Harvard campus, you're on Harvard campus. We want this whole master planned 60 plus acres to be the same. When you walk onto Elkhorn, you're part of Elkhorn. You can see some of our goals, in some of those I mentioned already. Historical integrity, revitalize it, have something that community can be proud of. I think our goal on that upper area is it is more dense in a couple of buildings, mostly to preserve more of the area so that it leaves untouched. So instead of doing development all over and roads all over, we thought, let's put a more dense building in an area that's not in a high view corridor area, and then preserve more of the area. So it has less impact on the environment, less impact on wildlife and other things. And then we do want to keep the walkability and accessibility. There's horse trails there that have been there for years and years and years. We want to keep it there. We want to continue to have horses and rides and access into the park like was mentioned before. Anyway, we appreciate your consideration on this. Look forward to talking a lot more, but just wanted to remind everybody of the overall vision.
All right, thank you so much. Paul covered this pretty well in regards to the context, so I'll just continue forward in the interest of time. As he mentioned, the zoning currently is part of the Larimer County RE zone district. It is planned for single-family residential. This is, as Paul mentioned, identified in the comprehensive plan as an accommodation area within the future land use plan, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a bit. Here again today, we're here to talk to you about the referral, the petition itself. With that, there are 4 specific items that we are looking at today in regards to that referral and that petition to move forward, which we'll go over now. Oops. First is contiguity. As Paul talked about, we do need to show 1/6 contiguity, which is about 881 feet. Currently, we have about 1,300 feet with that, which is about 1/4 of the site. The second part is community interest, and this is kind of the big one, obviously, right? We have a great neighborhood group here tonight to talk about that, express their concerns. We had a neighborhood meeting recently and want to continue to talk about that as we move forward. With this, obviously, the Estes Ford Comprehensive Plan does identify this as a state-mandated 3-mile annexation area. This is supported by the Comprehensive Plan's guided principles for a connected community and diversified economy. The goals of the annexation of the comprehensive plan both address what's going on in the town and the county, and that's what the comprehensive plan came together to look at all these different future land use areas. Through the annexation, there'll be hearings for zoning, the PUD development, which will allow engagement throughout the process moving forward, which again is part of the community interest piece. One of the items that we shared at the neighborhood meeting, this is kind of showing the process again in kind of a little different format than what Paul had shown it, is obviously the pre-application meeting, which we had with the town, kind of really understanding, is this something that we can get support from an infrastructure perspective? Does it make sense? And that's been kind of ongoing throughout the process. The first step obviously was the neighborhood meeting, which we had on December 19th, had a great turnout, a lot of good feedback, on both sides of the fence, right? Just understanding how we move forward, when the town can engage, and how we continue to do that, which puts us at the annexation petition, which is before you today. Moving forward, obviously, this project will go through different referral agencies. That process has started just based on timing, so we have been able to receive some of the referral agency comments. With that, the town obviously provides comments. We will revise a package, which then again will come back to the town to make sure that we've revised those packages, comments, and then also allows you to make some comments on that. With that, obviously, in the next step would be the public hearing. Going forward, and then the final determination. But you'll see throughout the process what's key to this and what we think is very important is the community interest piece. How does the town engage? How does the community engage? And how do we do that moving forward? And I'll again talk about some other aspects of that as we kind of dig through the process. One of the other guideline pieces of this is the area to be annexed urban or urbanizing? This area is within a mile of downtown. The comprehensive plan again looks at that 20-year growth projection. And really within that future land use plan wants us to evaluate water, sewer, urban fire, multimodal connectivity, all again, which can be seen within this with both the location to downtown and then the early discussions with the different departments about the needed supported infrastructure for this. There are adjacency to existing commercial land uses, which again are supportive of the comprehensive goals for appropriate and compatible land use transitions, which again is key to the future land use plan, understanding how we have this density, this diversity, moving it forward, and creating logical transitions as this grows throughout time. Integration capability, again, is the area able to be integrated into the town? Again, we've had preliminary discussions. There are infrastructure in place for the water line that exists out there already. There is access provisions from Elm Road, Juniper Lane, which is on kind of the southeast corner, and then from the adjacent Alcorn side of Alcorn Avenue. Fire and police have indicated capacity for that and support just to provide some additional service areas through this site. Ongoing discussions have happened with the fire department, just understanding what would be needed, how we could utilize the access, hearing some of the town comments also in understanding how does that get access used, right? And that's something that we want to continue to discuss as we move forward throughout the project. As Paul mentioned, there are some distinct advantages to the annexation. And those are the ones we want to focus on. Obviously, with this annexation, it'll provide greater flexibility for the town to direct development moving forward. So with that, we'll be subject to the town requirements, such as the ridgeline protection, accommodation density, and wildfire mitigation, which is key to this. In return, obviously, as Paul mentioned, we'll have to meet certain development standards that mitigate those development impacts. So that's something, again, as we move forward, and again, we'll get into it as we move forward in the next steps of the process, really look at how do those PUD guidelines shape this? How do we create a connected development as we move forward? And really thinking about that, as Justin had mentioned, from a historical perspective, because that is key to this, right? Understanding density, understanding the wildlife patterns, what do exist in there, wildfire mitigation, the grades, right? The grades are very critical to this and understanding that. So we've discussed some concepts that are out there in regards to density and how we address that with the treehouse units. But again, those things will all come as we move forward into the PUD development side of it and dig into those guidelines. Obviously, this is, there would be tax benefit from this as we move forward, but then also it would facilitate, key infrastructure connections from Moraine Avenue to Alcone Avenue, which emergency access, evacuations, and then the infrastructure and redundancy needed in those systems to make them work well for the community. With that, we are here for questions. Again, we want to kind of just focus on the referral piece, understanding that there's a lot of times to engage within the PUD process, zoning, and understanding how that works for the community as a whole and getting that positive feedback. As you probably have seen, the owners have been very much engaged, reaching out to community members through the meeting, and then also to the different service areas to really understand how this has effects on the area and the town. But with that, we'll open it up to questions and go from there.
Before I go to questions and comments from the trustees, I did commit at the beginning of the meeting that I'd provide 15 minutes for public comment. You did sign up on the sheet. I recognize several of the names as folks who have submitted one or more comments by letters or other. So with 7 folks on here, you each get 2 minutes. The way that I will handle this, I'll call your name. You don't have to repeat your name and address. When you have 1 minute left of the 2, I'll give you 1. When you get down to 0, I'll give you a 0 and give you 5 to 8 seconds to wrap up. And so you have Joan Hooper. And I won't count the time it takes to get to the podium. So, pardon me?
On deck.
Yeah, on deck is Catlin Reeves.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and trustees, for giving us time to say our piece. We really appreciate it. And I also want to thank East Avenue Development for the wonderful things they are doing rehabilitating the original Elkhorn Lodge. It's a real service to the community, and thank you. But Elkhorn, too, is a whole other kettle of fish. The proposed development, almost 300 lodging units, including 2 large multi-story hotels on 43 acres of secluded ridge-top, undeveloped meadow and woodland on top of Deer Ridge, adjacent to Old Man Mountain. It's a heavily used winter wildlife habitat, a bottleneck in the wildlife corridor that connects Rocky Mountain National Park to that large conservation easement that's just east of downtown. And our wildlife is very important to our identity of our town. It's what our visitors come here to see and to experience. And habitat loss for wildlife is a huge issue for us. May not feel like it because we're always full of elk jams and deer, but it is an issue. And we don't have any recent wildlife studies that actually address the current situation. We have a 1996 wildlife study. There's a 2008 one. We need one in 2025 that addresses what our wildlife is doing with all the development that's taken away most of their habitat in our last generation. And so I would really say that before any of this can go forward, we need a new wildlife study to find out whether this development is going to compromise the wildlife that is so essential to our identity. I also want to just very briefly touch on the economics of this. Elkhorn 1 plus Elkhorn 2 almost 500 additional lodging units. That's, the valley only has about 5,000. And so this is a huge, huge bump. The scale of this is kind of the scale is large. And I just want to say that in terms of the scale, we're talking about something as large as the Safeway, Stanley Village. Okay, it's huge, it's out of scale, and it doesn't belong on our precious wildlands. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen? Please, I don't want positive or negative affirmation. It can easily go both ways, and so please no applause, no cheers, as well as no jeers. Thank you.
I'm not normally one to infringe on somebody's property rights. I myself bought a vacant piece of property off of Elm Road and developed it according to its zoning. We often do not think of Estes Park as being rural. In fact, it didn't really even occur to me that we lived in the country of Estes Park until recently. This zoning has been put in place to prevent the overdevelopment of the mountain landscapes we all moved here to love. As a neighboring lot to this proposed development of 43 acres, I considered myself to be protected from commercial development next door. I'm a realist. I did not build my home and think the neighboring lots would never be developed. I did think that the day would come, when the day did come and heavy equipment showed up, I would soon have neighbors and a community next door. Teachers, healthcare workers, grocery store clerks, housekeepers, mechanics, daycare providers, and office staff may all be my potential neighbors. My children may even have a close friend to walk to. Instead, the possibility arose of a development that depletes our scarce resources even further. This project does not bring me closer to my community, but rather strips it away and amplifies the challenges we are already fighting against. I have many concerns around this project, too many to dive into with this short time. It is clear that this project will have a great impact on our community, landscape, environment, wildlife, groundwater, town infrastructure, emergency services, city water, roadways, fire risk, and sets a precedent for rezoning of residential lots and ridgeline building in the future. It is imperative we respect the current zoning and protect the rural areas of the ridgelines to conserve the beauty we undoubtedly cherish. Our space in this little slice of heaven is finite.
I'll need you to.
Is my time, okay. Is finite. I ask you to defend the protection of the current zoning and land use put in place in order to keep our mountain valley rural and sparsely populated, so our future generations may also find the solace, comfort, and mountain-strong community that Estes Valley holds in its cradle.
Thank you. Jim Fisher-Keller, and the next is Gerardo Rojas.
First, I thank you, Mayor and the board, for adopting the change to this meeting agenda tonight. And I also thank East Avenue for phase one, and I'm really looking forward to construction to be finished and it to be open. Next, with the recent dismissal of multiple fire inspections, concern and fire safety are heightened. The steep slopes and large-scale properties in the proposed development will exacerbate the already significant risk of wildfires, which also reduces accessibility of the emergency responders. This development will likely increase fire risk for the current residents and result in skyrocketing property insurance costs for them. Next, Estes Park economy heavily relies on the wildlife tourism, particularly during the peak season. This proposed development proximity to Old Man Mountain and its potential impact on the wildlife habitat poses a direct threat to the region's primary tourist draw. Diminishing wildlife populations will directly harm the local economy, which depends on visitors coming to see the animals. They're coming to see their animals in their natural habitat. The loss of this core attraction will affect local businesses, including shops and restaurants, and to diminish the unique charm of Estes Park. Earlier tonight, we talked about small business development. It is extremely important to Estes Park. Please involve local Estes Park-owned hotels currently in business and determine how corporate chain hotels will take their revenue away. I beg you to contact all the hotels in the area and look at their occupancy rates. Thank you.
Gerardo Rojas. Still present? Lacking that last name Burkhalter? And is it Max?
Yes, sir.
I think, yeah.
I'm Max Burkhalter, and I live at 1250 Rangeview Road. The importance of that is we have a home up there that was built in 1933. It was a VIP cabin out in Rocky Mountain National Park. We love it. The reason we came here was 27 years ago because we wanted some tranquility. We wanted the county to live in. I really don't want to look over there at that building. But in addition to that, I've worked through all of these bypass things with other committees. There's been a thought pattern that Rangeview Road is a thoroughfare. Actually, if you look at the plat of Rangeview Road, there's a cul-de-sac at the bottom. So it's really not legally a thoroughfare. The other thing is they said when the traffic would build up that people would go over the top of Rangeview Road. Rangeview Road is owned by Rangeview Subdivision. It's a private road. We pay for the maintenance. So that is an absolute fact. In addition to that, I'm totally opposed to Elm Road traffic being up and down there. We got a serious problem at the bottom of that hill right now in Moraine. You can't get in and out of there with semis and stuff. But the thing, and emergency vehicles, those kinds of things, I think is a wonderful idea. We need to protect people. But that's where I'm coming from. It's a serious issue. It needs to be looked into. Be more than happy to talk to anyone regarding that subject. So thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you. Gina Stein. And after that is Christine Poppets.
Thank you. I just want to address a couple of things on the report from the Galloway partners. They made an indication that there was sufficient traffic study done, and in their application report, it's noted that it was done on 2 days. One day was on a Thursday, December 5th, and it was snowing. I'm not sure who was all out and about on that day. And the other one is on Saturday, December 7th. So that was 2 days for a traffic study in the middle of December when our volume of visitors and people living in that area are either winter birding or on vacation. So I would address the committees or the trustees that the study that was provided does not seem to provide that nothing else would need to be done at Moraine and Elm Road. In fact, that is CDOT that would involve CDOT providing additional infrastructure for a signal. We can't get out now. You have all the cars going up to the rock pit. You have the trash trucks. You have the city trucks. And then you have the animals that use that as a thoroughfare. The other issue in the report from the Planning Commission, there was no mention of any indication upon the habitat and the wildlife when they had their advantages and disadvantages. So there was no concern there. Also, lost my train of thought. I will leave that there to allow someone an additional minute, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. And congratulations on the graduation from CIA. Christine.
Learned a lot of useful inside information. I'll be very brief.
I would like to do CIA, however, it's a huge time commitment, so hopefully in 2027 I'll do it. Thank you very much, Mayor, for deciding to let people speak tonight. I did submit public comment, but what I'm speaking about now briefly is not what I submitted in public comment. I just want to pose a question. With Elkhorn Lodge Phase 1, there are 184 new accommodation units. I would suggest that we, the town, the citizens, first see and truly study with all appropriate professionals and professional studies the real effects of Phase 1, again, the town and the citizens with professionals, before considering another 300 accommodation units. Thank you.
Thank you. Since this is not like a public hearing and we are headed toward no action, rather than doing rebuttal or back and forth, I would prefer to turn it over to the trustees for comments and questions.
This is
Trustee Lancaster.
This is probably for Attorney Kramer, but just some procedural thing, because the Municipal Annexation Act is a little kludgy, to say the least. And I think sometimes it's confusing to the public too. This is our first step, is just having this discussion here. But then the next step is this substantial compliance resolution. As I read that, that sounds like that's more perfunctory, that they've checked the boxes. That's not a place where we have a lot of discretion on whether it should be annexed or not. And that's not something that if we do that, says we're going to annex, it just says they've completed the application correctly. Is that a good assessment of that?
Correct, Trustee Lancaster. And in fact, there are two resolutions in sequence. The first one is as you described. It's just making sure that the petition substantially complied with what a petition has to have under the statute. The second resolution is saying whether the petition actually meets the requirements substantively of the Annexation Act. So it has contiguity, etc. Annexation is a legislative and discretionary action with the board. The actual determination that, yes, we are going to annex the property, if that happens, comes after those first two resolutions with the annexation ordinance. And it's probably at that time that you would also approve an annexation agreement. And then at that time or soon thereafter, probably at that time, you would be approving the initial zoning for the property as well.
So the first two steps are more perfunctory things, that making sure they've checked the box. I just want the people to understand that if it comes to us and we approve a resolution of substantial completion, that doesn't mean we're supporting annexation. It just means they've filled out the forms and they've submitted them
Correct,
correctly.
and it can be confusing, especially somewhere like here where we don't have a lot of annexations. We're not used to processing these through, but these are procedural requirements that we have to go through under the Annexation Act when we receive a petition.
So our discretionary part of this, where the town has a discretion to decide whether this is appropriate or not, is really in the third step that we take when we consider an annexation, not the first two
That's
of these
correct.
resolutions.
That's correct. We can annex the property, we can annex it with conditions. Those conditions can go into the agreement. I think the reason why you have a referral step, it's almost like a pre-step before you get to those technical steps, is so that the applicant can hear and staff can hear the general temperature of the board in case there are avenues we want to go down for that annexation agreement, or if this is something that the applicant doesn't really actually need to put time into because there's not interest in annexation at the town board.
And then lastly, if the town, in its discretion, decides not to annex, the applicant certainly has the right to appeal, to go for rezoning and to apply for the development in the county. That's right. I mean, there's nothing stopping that. And then we would become a referral agency, but we would have no deciding or any authority over what gets done or control over the how the development is presented.
Yes, without knowing any of the zoning out there within the county personally, theoretically, that is how that works, yes.
Trustee Brown.
So I've got a couple questions for Paul on this. and you may not have answers for all of this, but number one, we saw that first ridgeline protection graph, and then we saw the pre-development plans. And it looked to me like some of the hotels might be on the ridgeline protection area, although it's kind of hard to tell because it's two different maps. Do you have any sense as to whether the proposed location of any of this would violate the ridgeline protection requirements?
I don't think I can answer at this point.
Yeah,
Other than,
okay.
I think I would have similar comments or questions that you do.
Okay.
We need more information.
So we would, but that would clearly be something that would have to be worked out in a development plan to make anything happen, right?
That's correct.
Okay. The other question I have is, one of the opponents of this has said that the town will insist that it be a public road all the way from Moraine to Fall River. Is that true? I mean, first of all, I guess it depends on what we say, but does the staff have strong opinions as to whether that should be a public road or just emergency access to Elm Road?
I'm going to look to see if our Public Works staff is present.
Nobody's here.
Yes, Director.
Greg
there.
Mahonen. I thought you were asleep by now.
Oh, no. Oh, no. The direct answer to the question is yes. Public Works staff recommends that that be a public right-of-way and public roadway.
And that would require that any road built within the property would meet town urban standards for road?
Correct.
And are there different standards for a regular street compared to a bypass?
Yes,
Okay, so obviously wider, bigger for a bypass.
correct.
I can't entertain comments from the gallery.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, that answers that. The rest, I have a couple of comments here.
And I certainly would encourage folks, if you want to reach out to a trustee or to myself or
Yeah,
town staff, opportunities abound. Trustee Brown, continue.
So the one comment that was made about the traffic study, that does resonate with me, that it seems to me that this will inevitably require a different traffic study when Elkhorn 1 is finished and also when it's determined whether it's a public road there, through there, or a private road. If I were the developer, I would want it to be a private road because I cannot imagine entering your hotel through Elm Road. It's just not the inviting sort of thing. Yeah.
No sense of arrival.
I think this is one area
Will you turn your mic on? The
Oh, yeah,
hit
there's a
the
button.
little button.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think this is one area where we do have more alignment with the neighbors. Not that we're not aligned with the town, but
Yeah.
we're fine if all of the access comes through phase one.
Okay.
And we're fine if emergency access only is put on Elm Road and there's a gate there. And
Great.
so even in the traffic study that we did, we said the vast majority was coming through our development. We weren't doing anything on Old Ranger. We're fine if we don't do anything on Elm. We'd rather have everybody come through phase one because that's a better experience by
And-
far.
and would it be
so
feasible-
Really, this
yeah.
is in alignment with the
Would it be
neighbors.
feasible even for construction equipment to come from Fall River rather than up
If-
Elm Road?
It's feasible, yes.
Okay,
You're saying Elkhorn.
I'm sorry, Elkhorn.
Elkhorn.
Yeah.
Elkhorn.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Eigel.
Wait a minute.
Whoa, sorry, I thought you,
I will finish and then I'll be done.
okay.
So,
There was such a pause. Go ahead, carry on.
you want to get rid of me, I get it. so,
No,
okay.
we love you.
I think there's one thing that I think we need to think about, and that is, as some of you know at least, I'm the liaison to the Housing Authority. I was on the board of the Housing Authority, and I'm very involved in issues of workforce housing and affordable housing in the community. And we've had some really interesting changes in the last year in that regard. We've added 110 rooms or dwelling units total that had been vacation rentals that are now workforce housing. And that does a couple of things that we have to consider in connection with this. Number one is the sales tax and the lodging tax that went along with those units is gone, and it will not recur. And so one of the things from a financial management standpoint we have to consider is how we're going to replace that revenue. And the most logical thing is annexation, not necessarily this annexation, but annexation generally, because that will produce sales tax and lodging taxes. So I just think we need to think about how that integrates with this whole question. And the only other thing I want to say, and this is maybe a recommendation to the developer, is that so far what we've heard has been opposition. Basically a desire to kill the project altogether. I haven't heard much about working with the developer on mitigation and doing things that might change the scope of the project one way or the other. I think it would be a good idea to have more community meetings to see if there's any possibility that there's something that can occur there. You know, I'd like to have this be not just an opposition and a development, but some sort of overall community discussion that might lead to something that would satisfy both parties. And I'm not sure that that'll work. You never know until you do it, but just a suggestion as we go forward.
Trustee Igo.
Thanks, Mayor. A couple of things. I think we have to acknowledge the value of public engagement very early. This is so early in the process, you're not allowed to speak. So I think that that's a testament to when people are interested in an issue in this valley, if you get in on it, it helps this board make decisions and find a way. So waiting until the last night, when it's time for the final vote, is a very difficult time to raise rehearsed comments and speeches. Right now, it's valuable. So I want you to acknowledge that you're showing your letters and emails, your words are valuable to help guide this discussion. The one thing that's come up that is a big revelation to me and others I've spoken with about this is that annexation gives this board control of this issue, the land, the future. So this, not to show cards in this strategy, but it may be a benefit for the town to annex that property and be able to guide the future development of that. And my question, and I don't think that anyone that's present here could answer the question, would be if we did not annex that, and I'm not saying I'm for annexation, I'm not saying that's the way it's gonna go, but I'm trying to go through the thought process of thinking 25 years down the road instead of what we're gonna decide tonight. And that's been a real shift for me in this position. Not what's going to happen tomorrow, depending on this vote, but where is that in 50 years? Is it valuable to have a locally elected board of trustees help guide that development, which may be really bad news for the developer sitting in the front row to say, yep, we're going to annex it, but that development doesn't work for us. So that has, for me, that makes annexation palatable, but I'm not saying we're doing that. The last thing would be if the town did not annex this, I wonder what the developer would do with the county. So that's a little bit of a mystery for me. What is the maximum zoning change that they could accomplish? And I guess I'm addressing the community here, not so much the board or the developer or the applicant, but the community. What could happen if the town does not have an authority or a voice in this decision making? So those are things on my mind. Thank you for your involvement. Thanks for the minute.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Trustee Lancaster? No,
I'm still thinking, but if no one was gonna say
All right.
anything, I was gonna go.
Well, I'll give you a chance to think some more. This is more of a sideline comment, but I think we need a light at Elm Road and Moraine, whether this goes through or not. So that intersection is a mess. Totally ignore the rest of this project. That intersection is a mess, and to get on the record, sometime we need to have a light at that intersection.
You didn't give me that much time.
you
Frank.
could
Sorry, I
have,
stalled. I
You-
tried to stretch it out.
you also said, or a roundabout, you could have said. Trustee Hazelton?
It's rare that Trustee Eigel and I agree with his comments up here, but I do, and honestly, I think it started with Trustee Lancaster, his initial comments, recognizing that, you know, our conversation here tonight is not, you know, a go-ahead on the project, it's not a go-ahead, or it's not an axing the project, it's a conversation about what's the most strategic way to consider the development of that property. And I have a lot of questions still, and I appreciate that you reached out to us to see if you could answer some of those questions. Obviously, we have to be a little bit careful with potential of an impending development plan. Want to make sure that we all do this publicly and correctly so that we can vote on it and share our interest in it or our comments on it. But I have a lot of questions about our ability to service that property when we are talking about this level of increased habitation, I guess. And I think, you know, I appreciate all of the department heads weighing in or departments weighing in on what we're able to do from a town perspective, but I think about the increase on all of the services required to properly support that. And I just have so many questions. And I think, you know, as we're just talking tonight about, do we even want to consider annexation, not the full, we're just talking annexation. The only way that I think that I could get answers to some of those questions is to continue through this process. So I do think that I wouldn't even begin to start listing everything that I think I would need from you. And it's very clear that a lot of the things that you would have to share with us, we've talked about as part of the, you know, formal process. A lot of the community members have identified similar questions that I have about how this might move forward. I will say that the accommodation zoning versus A1, I have a lot of questions about that level of density and intensity for the property. But I'd like the ability to ask them and for us to talk about it, you know, at this level. So I'm tentatively interested at this point, if only so that we can have more information and a more in-depth conversation as a local decision-making board, like Trustee Eigel said. So that's where I'd land at this moment in time. And by no means is that a rejection of comments from the community. It's actually an acceptance of comments and saying, hopefully your local elected officials can perhaps have a heavier decision-making hand if it gets to that point, and maybe not. But that's, I think, where I'd land right now.
Thank you. Trustee Youngland?
I won't repeat. I feel like I'm really in line with Kirby. You know, it's a different way to think about, you know, having more control than letting the county have free reign right in our backyard. So that's an interesting twist that I hadn't really put much thought into. You know, I have my concerns just as we've been reading your concerns, the wildlife, the traffic. I'm concerned also the magnitude of the proposed A1A would be a sticking point for me. You know, our water is a precious commodity, and how much more water this huge development would take is a concern of mine. You know, we just had the Y come on, and that's another huge facility. So those would be things I would be asking questions of our staff as well. But I too would like to be able to have that conversation and have that opportunity to learn more and hopefully meet everybody halfway, you know, because the residents are so important in the decision, but so is business. And I think there's a meeting ground. So if that makes it clear or not, I don't know.
Well, I think that does. Two comments before I turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Sinak. We're closing in on 10 o'clock. It will require board action to extend past 10 o'clock, but I will make the point that I have heard a consensus from the board to keep the process going, to get to those next stages of discussion, checks, marks, whatever. I believe I've heard from at least 4, maybe 5 on that. Mayor Pro Tem, you have a comment?
I was gonna make a motion for extension, but I'll make the comment first. My only comment is that there are a lot of questions that we're gonna have to go through with this, a lot of questions. But there is no one in this world, I would say, that care more about town of Estes Park besides its own citizens, the people that live here, and this town board. And I don't wanna put any of those decisions in somebody else's hands. And so if we think about that as being annex, I think that we have to keep that in mind, that there is no one else that cares more about this community than the people that live here, including the people who are elected officials in the county. I don't want to say above us, but in the county. So I just want everybody to keep that in mind when annexing. But I also like a motion to extend the meeting past 10 o'clock. I may not vote for it, but I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion to extend past 10 by Mayor Pro Tem Sinak, seconded by Trustee Hazelton. Almost forgot your name for a second. All in favor, let's go ahead and vote. I think I'm on my 18th hour of meetings today, so there you go. Is that legal? At this point, we'll conclude the discussion on this item. We still have another session that we're going to go in, but it appears to me that we will continue apace. Mr. Hornbeck, or whoever in the planning department continues the process to get us to those other stages of discussion, comment. I encourage continued comment. You've heard some of the other stuff here. You've seen some of the replies from the applicant. Please continue to share. That's where rebuttal and thoughts can come. Contact any of your trustees or myself. Happy to discuss. But remember, we can only talk about the potential for annexation. That's what we're in this for, not potential developments on that. All right, thanks so much. Thanks to everyone. We are now going to enter executive session for the conference with an attorney for the board for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions, as well as determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or
Barb, we're still in session. Barb, we're still in session.
And instructing negotiators. I need a motion and a second to move into executive session.
I move we enter executive session.
Second.
Trustee Brown made a motion for executive session. Trustee Youngland seconded. We can vote on it.
And Mayor, while we're voting, I'll just say, just to confirm and clarify, this is regarding the Spring Hill Suites Hotel Olympus Lodge annexation agreement for those two purposes that you laid out.
I should have said that. Thank you for getting that on the stream. All streaming services will be terminated for the duration of the executive session. The board will return to the regular session and streaming will not resume. And at this point, I think we need to convert the room to executive session before I read the other part.